Kia ora everybody and welcome to the Good Day Matrix. My name is Daz and I have the absolute privilege of being here today in Cambridge with the amazing Nicola Turner. A few years ago now, and I don't actually know how long ago, but I went to a cafe in Tamahere called Punit with my friend Ange, and we heard Nick speak for the first time to a community of people who are trying to do better with their sustainability and taking care of the environment and trying to do their part. And I was really inspired and also totally overwhelmed because she's amazing, and she'll tell you about her half a black sack of rubbish a year, which blew my mind. But it inspired me. I was the prime candidate for using a lot of pump bottles, and that was easy. Now I travel with my glass bottle wherever I go. Nice. Yeah, and that was the first thing that I was able to do that could make a difference. So Nick used to be in the fast moving consumer goods lane of life and then changed tact and founded Mainstream Green, which we'll hear more about today. And that was really to support behaviour change and to take care of our environment and our people and our wellbeing. So I can't wait to share her story with you. But thank you very much, Nick, for being here with us today.
You're welcome. Stoked to have you here.
Thanks for having us here. Yeah. I shouldn't.
Welcome to my home.
So today, when we talk about wellness, we talk about body, mind, identity, community, and environment, because a lot of people focus on body and mind for wellness, and they don't really see that bigger picture. And there's more to it. There's financial wellbeing and everything that goes in between. But we'll focus on those 5 pillars today and ask you some questions and get people curious about sustainability and about their wellness.
Awesome, sounds cool.
So we'll start with body. So what do you do for your body? What activities do you like to do, or rituals do you have daily that you like to do?
The first thing, and my husband got me onto this, so he can claim this one, is every day the first thing I do is go outside. You know, either ideally put my feet in the grass, just get some natural light, get a little bit of a feel for the day. And that also is I love the pause, move and breathe kind of mantra, and that helps me do all of those things. It helps me connect to the day, it helps me sort of take a moment and be present, and then I focus a little bit on my breath. And I move every day, whatever that looks like. It could be as simple as 10 minutes of yoga, or just jumping on my bike to head into the office, and that's only 10 minutes each day, or it could be a full kind of yoga session or run, but just something that gets me moving every day. And the ritual is always the pot of tea.
The pot of tea.
There's got to be a pot of tea first thing in the morning.
I love it. That's good for the soul and the body.
Absolutely.
How good. On a tough day, you are a very busy businesswoman, and you've got a lot on your plate with children and everything else that you're managing. So on a tough day where things start moving quickly or a bit quicker than you'd planned, how do you ensure that you prioritise getting those things for your body?
Generally, if I feel like things are spiralling, that's because I know I haven't paused or breathed or moved. That's kind of my check-in to go, okay, something's a little bit out of whack. And if I can, I'll there and then, even if it's just, if I work in a co-working space, if it's there, I'll just walk out and walk around the block. Or if I'm at home and I'm not in the middle of a Zoom call, that would be awkward. Just kind of stand up and go outside or breathe or whatever that might be, even if it's just some sort of micro pause. But that spiral, if I feel like I'm spiraling or I'm feeling overwhelmed, that's generally my trigger to go, okay, somehow I haven't done those 3 things.
Yeah, got you. Yeah, that's but an easy check-in too, right? It's not like trying to remember a list of 10 or 15 things to sort. That's a very quick 3-word.
All my husband tells me, I think you need to do some exercise.
My husband will say, have you eaten?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think you need to eat? So we'll move into mind. For what you're doing, you are trying to change the world, is my take on,
hard.
And it is hard. And any type of business ownership is hard, but you're really trying to drive behaviour change and mindset change for people, really. So I'm imagining quite often you'd be coming up against brick walls and challenges, sort of left, right and centre. So totally. How do you manage that in terms of a mindset? And when you're hitting those brick walls, how do you find a way to keep pushing through those brick walls, or find different lanes, or start new conversations? What's your process for that?
And I think it's it's a bit of a cliche, right? But it's all about connecting to that why. You know, what's my why, and what am I trying to achieve, and why am I doing that? And if anything feels a little bit out of balance, if I check in with that, I find that's really good. So I've been trolled a few times. That's always fun. And then I remember the first time it happened, a media piece went out, and you know, some people got on the bandwagon and started saying some pretty just mean things. And the first reaction, it's such an awful feeling, right? The first reaction was, I can't do this anymore. I can't put myself out there if this is what it's going to look like. Whereas it took me a few minutes, but when I went, but why am I doing this? Okay, I'm trying to create a movement of mindful consumption where we're more aware of the impact that we're having. And as soon as I connected to that, I'm like, why would I let that derail me? You know, so I think it's a little bit cliche and it's a little bit obvious, but it really is, you know, having that North Star to keep connecting to. And another thing has been letting go of my ego. Nice. You know, so I think stuff doesn't always go to plan. No. People always say no. You know, you hit that brick wall, you put something out there and it flounders or fails. And learning to let go of that ego, and it's normally in hindsight, I'm not gonna lie, you look back and go, that's where the good growth happened, you know. So that, I'm not gonna say I'm comfortable with failure, but that recognition of failure, and that's where the good growth comes from, and just continuing to reflect on that can help you going forward.
And you're having conversations obviously with people who, like, again, you're trying to challenge a social norm that's been accepted for a really long time of how we do consume and what we do and all our packaging, etc. But I'm imagining some of those conversations with people, you get stonewalled, or they're not really listening to the words because it's not in their mind that that's how we do things. So how do you have those conversations to help people actually move their mind, or to actually hear you in the first place?
A lot of what I do is I make it really personal about me. So I talk about, whenever I'm doing a keynote or whenever I'm talking to people, I'll talk about my journey, because I haven't always been this way at all. So it's been a journey for me, and I think that helps to disarm people a little bit, because I'm not coming in and preaching perfection or preaching that what they're doing is wrong. You know, I talk about it, everything in life is a journey, right? And I think if I make it personal and sort of bring it on myself, that helps to disarm people. But I also have a little bit of an attitude of, all of the work I do, I go where the energy is. Nice. And if I'm talking to somebody or an organisation and the energy is just not there, or it's not really authentic in terms of them wanting to change, then that's not where I spend my time. There's enough energy out there that I will find that. That's awesome. And lean into that.
And it's also, like, I think that's a really great message for other people too. Like, you know, when you walk into any environment and you feel yourself, like you're either excited to be here, or you're kind of like, oh man, or those people you're going out for dinner but you really don't want to, because you know it's going to be a pretty tough night for you, and it's like the energy suck rather than the energy give.
Totally. Yeah.
And I find the same with this, like, you know, we're both doing the same things in terms of trying to connect and find more people to join these different things we're trying to do. And when you feel quite blocked quite early, then you kind of go, is this the one I need to keep pushing on? Yeah. Or is it just all good? Like, you know, because you find your people along the way if you just keep being that authentic self rather than trying to fit into those different spaces. So I think that's a really positive message for a lot of people, is find the energy and then give your energy back into it, and that's where you're going to get huge change.
Absolutely. And like, I believe really strongly in collaboration, and so I'll often say yes to conversations or connections, and maybe 8 out of 10 of them don't go anywhere, or they aren't that right fit, or there's not that right energy connection. But you know, 20% of the time, that's when you find that, you know, that's when what you're panning for, right? You're panning for that gold. And so I think it's that recognition of that, is it's not going to be everywhere, and it's not going to be all the time, but you need to just keep doing it, because that's where you find the real magic.
And sometimes when you've underestimated someone a little bit and gone, oh, I don't really know if this one's going to pay off, and you know you're busy and you're kind of like, oh, do I really want to take that meeting? And you do, and you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I even considered not doing that, you know, like, and I get reminded of that frequently by people.
Keeps you real, keeps you humble.
So around mindset as well, I guess, you know, our people are our keys. So do you have key support people that you can download to, or help you to really stay on track with where you're trying to get to? And on those tough days when trolls decide to take it out on the keyboard warrior stuff. Do you have those people, or who are those people, and what do they do for you to really keep you on track to keep moving?
Yeah, I feel really lucky to have lots of amazing networks, and one is there's 9 of us, all women, that grew up together, the Type 9, and so we've been friends for, I don't know, over 30 years, and they're all such amazing, strong, successful women doing incredible things. But when you've got 30, 35 years of history together, you know where we've come from, you know who we are, you can cut through the BS really quickly and be really, really raw with each other as well. So they're amazing, and you'll say something and they'll just cut through really, really quickly and keep it real, but also be really honest and supportive. So there's a lot of, we have an amazing chat group that we all kind of just about stuff.
The Type 9.
The Type 9, yeah. And when we all turned 40, we went on this incredible overseas trip together to celebrate it, and I think that brought us all closer together, and we tackle and talk about all the really grunty, raw stuff, which I feel really lucky to have that network. My husband's amazing. He's great to bounce stuff off. Lots of people I have worked with or do work with. Everything kind of has a time and a place in terms of, when you kind of different things I'll go to different people for. And I always feel really honoured when that is reciprocated as well. If you share or ask for feedback and then you get that reciprocated, it feels really good as well. So, for a long time, I'm quite fiercely independent, and I have a tendency to just kind of want to try and keep it all in. But I've learned the more I share, then the more other people share, and that's really, that's a really cool feeling.
Yeah, and it's the power of connection, right? Like, this is something we talk about often. It's not just going, say, hey Nick, how are you? And it's good. And how are you? Good. And okay, choice. And then you sort of go about your day. It's what's been going on for you. And people start to go, oh, well, actually, I've been working pretty hard at the moment. But good just sort of blocks. But it also doesn't get into a really nice conversation where there's some truth being spoken and almost some soul healing happening in a conversation. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be with a best friend. That could be with anyone.
Could be. And we had that exact moment before, right? When you're going, actually, there's a bit too much.
Yeah.
And that also, it's way more relatable for me. Like, you come to my house and I'm like, I don't clean my windows, right? And that makes people feel, oh, good, So it's like, it's all about that. And vulnerability is a strong word, right? But I think it helps all of us if we share more. And look, I'm going to have to also, of course, do a shout out to my mum. Okay, so my mum's my number one supporter and my number one fan. So I also want to acknowledge her, of course.
Nice, nice. I love that. Shout out to you.
Yeah, shout out to you, Val.
And I love that it kind of leads us straight into, so identity is really important in our wellness journeys and knowing who we are and where we've come from, and it helps us influence or understand why we react the way we do and the way we think about different things, because all of those things matter of where we've come from and who's shared those different things. Again, it comes back into our social norms around our behaviours. But tell us about your journey. So where are you from and where are you now, and where are your whānau from?
So mostly grew up in the Waikato and am back here now. So grew up, most of my schooling was in Hamilton.
Nice.
And left as soon as I could. So as soon as I finished high school, I was like out and swore I'd never come back. And
Hamilton's all right.
Oh, and look, I've come full circle, I've totally come full circle. It's just so funny. So many of my friends left and went away and everybody's just ended up coming back, which I think is really awesome. So sort of mainly grew up in the Waikato, Bay of Plenty, and then a long time in Auckland.
Yeah.
A bit of time in Sydney, 5 years in London, back to Auckland, and have now settled to raise family in Cambridge or Kimuriti here in the Waikato. And like I said, it's just, you look back on your 18-year-old self and you're like, wow, because it's like all I wanted to do was get out. But I don't think I could ever change my concept of home, I love the community of Cambridge, and I love being back in the Waikato, and it's really cool. So mum still lives in Hamilton, my dad's down at Ohope Beach, and my in-laws are out at Whangaroa, Raglan. We're sort of in this line across the country, and it's a pretty special place to be.
Nice. Oh, I love that. I love the Waikato, clearly.
That's cool.
I have that argument with anyone. If they're like, oh, poor you live in Hamilton. I'm like, oh, okay, hold on.
Yeah, I'll take this one. Yeah.
Let's go.
It's so, it's just got so much going for it. It's really reinvented it itself. It's awesome.
Yeah. Now, with your identity, I think a really cool story here that I'd love for you to share is how you went from FMCG to mainstream green, and what really inspired, I guess, what got you into there to start with, I guess, to FMCG, and then that move across, like, what was that like? What was that journey?
That 180 happen?
Yeah.
No, good question. So I fell into FMCG. So I was in my penultimate year at university. I just love using that word. It's such a big one. So second to last year at university, and they were doing summer internships. So I just went along. I'm like, I need a summer job. So I went along to a meeting and found out about a summer internship at a large FMCG company. Applied for it, got in, that was my summer job, and then they offered me a full-time gig as soon as I graduated. So really just fell into it, and then spent 15 years working in the industry, and really loved my job. You know, I got paid really well, and the company car, and the overseas travel, and the international postings, and they had a really strong, the company I worked for had a promote from within culture. So you started, and then you know, so much opportunity for growth and movement, constantly learning. I really enjoyed that. And I ended up sort of specialising in what's called shopper, so understanding shopper behaviour, how we all behave as shoppers in the supermarket. Yeah. Shopper insights, shopper psychology, and then shopper marketing. So understanding our behaviour in the supermarket and then using that insight to orchestrate things to get us to buy more. Yeah. So on my work plan was always 3 things. How do we get people to buy things they've never bought before, buy more of what they're buying, or pay more for what they're already buying? Wow. So very much about driving consumption, and more is more. And I never really thought to question it, because it's kind of just the way of the world, right? Yeah. And it's such a strong part of how we live. And like I said, I really enjoyed the career, but then sort of something set things on a bit of a different trajectory in my personal life, and that was my husband Mike. He started getting very mild dermatitis on the ring finger of his left hand. That finger changed the course of everything. One finger.
That's why I don't wear my ring very often. I've got the same issue. So
interesting. Yeah. So that finger changed everything. And so he was getting really frustrated by it, went to the doctor, got steroid cream, used steroid cream, cleared up, within 24, 48 hours, except then he'd stop using it and it would come back. So, this sort of rinse and repeat cycle. And it's like, well, clearly we're treating the symptoms here and not the cause. And that mindset of, well, what could be the cause was what changed everything. So we started looking, there was something in my mind that was like, on average, through the products that we put on our skin, we're putting over 400 different synthetic chemicals in our skin every day, right? It's more than that now. This was quite a while ago. And then there's all the environmental exposure, and it's a lot. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe there's something in that. Yeah. So we really started looking at the products that we were putting on our skin. So we started by changing our hand soap. That was the gateway behaviour, as I call it. And then it was a case of every time we ran out of something, it was like, actually, do we need to keep using this? Yeah. And if we do, can we sort of sub it out with something that's a bit simpler from an ingredients point of view? And then it moved on to from the products we were putting on our skin to the products we were using around us, like cleaning products, the food we were eating. And then somewhere along the line, it was like, well, this is better for our well-being, because that's the angle, that's what got us into it. It was purely selfish. But this is also better from an environmental point of view. Yeah. Oh, that feels kind of good. And then because we were buying less products, we were creating less waste. So then I was like, well, what else is in our rubbish bin that we could get rid of? And went down that rabbit hole, and then moved on to, what about all that other stuff in our life? So the kids' toys, the furniture, the clothes, the outdoor scatter cushions, I don't know, all of that other stuff, and really started reading up on minimalism and living with less and those kinds of things. And I had my youngest child, and was due to go back from maternity leave back into FMCG, the corporate world, and just went, you know what? My job, I'm spending my working time understanding shopper behaviour to get people to buy more, and in my personal life, I'm trying to figure out ways to consume less. But then at the same time, I ended up just kind of, because I didn't want to throw out 15 years of experience and what I knew. So I went, how do I use that as a force for good? And so it used to be about understanding shopper behaviour to get people to consume more. Now I'm about understanding human behaviour to get people to consume less. And it's remarkably similar.
Yeah.
Remarkably similar, because it all comes down to human behaviour. You know, like with sustainability, it's about us as humans changing our habits. So it's a very human thing. And just because we know the right thing to do doesn't mean we do it. It's like diet. It's like sleep. It's like, you know, we all broadly know what we should be doing. We have all the answers when it comes to sustainability. We just need to change our habits. And so that's the kind of the sweet spot that I play in, is that real human, how do we navigate human behaviour to get us to change our habits, which was very similar to the shopper behaviour stuff I was doing. So so I formed Mainstream Green as a social enterprise, working in that behaviour change space. I work with businesses, a lot of speaking events to get businesses really excited about sustainability. I work with councils, consulting in the behaviour change space, and then I do public facing stuff as well.
Amazing. That's so cool. And that's the stuff I remember. Again, I left your workshop that day and I was like, right, what else can I do? And we started using like different soaps, like the Atique soaps, or like homemade soaps and stuff. But it makes such a big change, just having the awareness to actually go, hold on a minute, why am I doing this? It's the same. We went to a course a few weeks ago, and this guy goes, right, everybody stand up. So we all stood up, and he goes, why do you stand up? We're like, because you told us to. He goes, nobody questioned me. Yeah. Sit down. And we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he said you've got to start thinking about what's going on around you, and it's not just, that's not just with consumption, but everything. Like, why are you doing that? Why are you driving to work every day? Or, like all these things we've just been told we should. So now actually what feels, and that's that disconnect you felt. Hold on a minute. I'm trying to do these two things, but actually there's a disconnect and my values aren't aligning and I'm feeling really off, like something needs to change.
And so much of it is autopilot, right? Like, and that's constantly working in FMCG. It was all about disrupting the autopilot of shopping, right? Because if you think about when you go to the supermarket, it's like you normally go the same way around, you normally kind of reach for the same things. There's thousands of products that you can't possibly navigate them all, so you kind of end up being really autopilot in where you look and what you do. So it was a constant job of trying to disrupt that to get people to see your product and pick it up. And it's the same in the work that I do now. It is that autopilot of consumption, you know, whether it's the clothes we wear, the food we eat, the electricity we use, the way we get around, the waste we create. All of it is, so much of it has to be on autopilot, right? Otherwise we'll kind of get overwhelmed. So how do you disrupt that wake up moment for people to go, oh, what if? Yeah.
Powerful. I love it. Change the world, Nick. We're behind you.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Again, it moves us so nicely into community. So
perfect.
Community, we caught up for a coffee, I don't know, a month ago, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And Nick rides around Cambridge on her push bike, and she's got saddlebags on the back and she's got a basket on the front, and you can just tell that people would know who you're that lady who's around and is living what you're talking about. And I'm imagining leading by example and quite a leader in your community, but you also have a really strong online community who are supporting what you're doing. So how have you cultivated that online community to really get in behind what you're trying to achieve?
I think, as with so many businesses or organisations, you know, when you first start, it's your friends and family that start following you, right? Which is awesome. And so you talk to them in a certain way, you know, because that's who it is. And I think that's been really helpful for me, in terms of, I don't see them as followers, I don't see them as potential clients, I just see them as people who are really supportive of the idea of what I'm doing. So I think that's really shaped how I talk to people, and I think, and I suspect you'll be on board with this in terms of the Good Day Matrix as well, is it's just all about sharing. It's not sharing with a caveat of I'm sharing on the basis that then you're going to buy from me or whatever. It's just really, I share stuff because I believe in creating an impact, and I believe that's what's going to create change 100%. In people. So yeah, I don't know what the word is, you know, extreme sharing, or I don't know, you know, but that's sort of always been my theory, is I'll just give and share, and then people will, that's what connects people to you. And it was really interesting. I did this really interesting social experiment, for want of a better word, where I created an online course. So I did a lot of content around secondhand or around sustainable fashion, and people really resonated. I'm like, okay, cool, I'm going to create an online course, mini course, created it. But I don't like price to be a barrier for people. So but I have a business to run. So I put it out and I gave people, they could choose what they paid for it. So they could pay full price, they could pay half price, or they could pay nothing. And it was totally up to them. And anybody I've told that story to, especially my accountant, is like, why did you do that? Why did you do that? And there were lots of moments of self-doubt where it's like, why am I doing this? But it was, what came back was a third of people paid full price, a third paid half price, and a third paid nothing. Which was it just really reinforced my beliefs, I think, because I'm like, there are people out there who could have paid nothing, but because I feel that they feel like they're getting so much value from me, and I've shared, you know, a lot over the years, that they felt they wanted to pay, and that's very much how I positioned it. So that's kind of always been how I guess I've treated my online community, for want of a better word, is all about sharing, and I just trust that will. Yeah, it's a terrible business model.
It's not though.
Well, like on paper.
Yeah. For your accountant, it's a terrible business model.
It doesn't know how to work. But somehow it works, and that's always been my theory. And then part of it has also been, you know, finding your voice, for want of a better word, being really authentic. That's an overused word, but you know, it's actually, and I stopped following other people that are in a similar space to me, or stopped looking at their social media profiles, and because I found I was comparing too much and then doubting what I was doing, and you know, so I've ended up just focusing on me and doing things that work for me and my voice, and you know, in my way.
That authenticity is the key. Like I talk about it as sustainable authenticity. So as long as you're being true to you, then that you're not trying to be anybody else. So again, that energy you're giving and everything else, it's sustainable long term. Being you. What it's not sustainable is if you're trying to fit into anybody else's squares, or, you know, trying to do all these different things. So I like to say it's sustainable authenticity is, and it's taken me I'm 36 years old, it's taken me a long time to find, or like accept that I can just be me, and if it doesn't work for people, it doesn't work for people. And if money's not my driver, it never has been, and that upsets some people, and they just cannot comprehend that I wouldn't want to put prices on different things, like this amazing chat today. But, you know, like, it's not me, it never has been. So how we tick that along, it can be quite a blocker for some people.
Absolutely.
But then I also find great advocates in that who jump on the bandwagon with us because they know what we're trying to do, and they help us drive forward as well. So it's always been quite an interesting conversation. They're like, why don't you charge for that? Or why are you there for free doing this? Or,
and I found that really interesting, and throughout the years I've had various sort of business coaches and things like that, and I always found it really hard to find the right person who was the right fit, because it was often really, really business in terms of everything. How do you monetize? Everything is an opportunity, everything needs to be monetized, and that never felt comfortable, you know, versus you might have the other extreme. And I've kind of been trying to find that middle line for me is absolutely I need to have a sustainable business, and that includes financially sustainable, absolutely, but I need to do it in a way that feels really comfortable and authentic to me, and I need to trust that will work. And I know we had that conversation, you know, when we did catch up around there can be different parts of your business as well, right? How do you use parts of your business to enable other parts of your business as well?
Absolutely.
And I did, for the first time last year, I started tracking my impact. You know, I'm an impact business, and so I'm like, I better actually track this and report on it. You know, and tracking the hours that I spend, you know, how I generate my income, how the hours I spend in the community, the hours I do, and that I found that was so good for me as well, because it also made me feel really positive about, you know, because you get really focused on how much, you know, have I made?
Bottom line, profit and loss.
That I found just tracking that really, really good in terms of keeping me, you know, on that journey as well.
Nice. So what other communities are you a part of outside of obviously the community you've built yourself?
Community is such a cool word, eh? Yeah. Like, I feel a lot of, we've been in Cambridge for about 8 years now, and you know, when people ask if I enjoy it, I'm like, yes, because I feel part of the community. You know, like it's a standing joke that I often work in the co-working space at home, and it should take me in town, sorry, and it should take me 8 minutes to get home, and I'll like message my husband, I'm like, I'm on my way, and he's like, I'll see you in an hour, because it's like you're always running into people and talking to people, and and that's really cool. So I just feel like there is a really nice local community here. As my kids get older and we're part of that school community, there's other parents and you feel really part of that, which is really nice. We live very close to the school, so there's always people walking past. There's a community garden on the berm outside our house, which is it's a really cool project with the community board here. So that's been just really cool to see the conversations that happen right in front of our house over a garden is really cool. There's a really good community of people working in sustainability as well.
Cool.
Yeah, which is really, really cool. And I certainly see it this way, and I know a lot of others do as well, is we're not competing against each other.
That's the key element of that, right? It's like it's that shared vision that you're all working towards, and there's enough to go around in terms of the work that's it's going to get bigger and bigger as this becomes more. But getting in behind that big shared vision together, you can all have your different visions within it, but that
co-op, I've heard it called co-opetition, right? Where it's like we do kind of, in some ways, compete with each other, but we're always better together. Always better together, And I've found that people are really good at sharing and collaborating, and which is a really cool community too.
That's the key. The more open, then the more change you'll get. If you can just take some walls down. I love that.
Yeah.
So when we talk about environment, we could talk about all kinds of environment. You know where I'm going to go with this.
I do.
It's you. But, we can talk about our home environments, our work environments, the environments we create around ourselves, but we are totally going to hone in today on sustainable environments.
I'm down with that.
And of course we are. And you talk about, and I get hassled all the time, but there's a guy called James Clear, and he talks as well about those 1%ers, but small things make big differences if you keep doing those over time and layering and adding more and more, and having really strongly laughing at me.
Is it the James Clear
because
thing?
it's the James Clear thing that they're like, it only took it this long this time.
But I totally am a James Clear fan as well. So.
But I just thought I'd open this to you to just talk us through, like, what are some things that people can do if we're totally useless like I was a couple of years ago, and we're still using pump bottles, and we get all our takeaway containers when we go out for, and we're underprepared and we don't have those things in our cars. Like, where can people start in terms of feeling a manageable, foot down in the process to actually start making some positive change in their own worlds that can start to have that impact?
Yeah, and I mean, the first thing I like to say, which you've very much alluded to, is it doesn't matter where or how small the change is, just start. Because, and I think I mentioned it before, I am a big believer in that concept of gateway behaviours. I started by changing my hand soap, and now this is what I do for a living. That was my first change, was changing my hand soap. So, and I encourage people to choose the simplest, smallest change, which is very much along the lines of James Clear, right? Because then it feels achievable. You make that change, it feels good, you then feel motivated to go on and make more, and it sort of snowballs from there. So I don't have this is the one change everybody should make, because I think it's really personal. I say choose the thing that really annoys you, or that feels really good, or that is just going to be the lowest hanging fruit and the easiest thing that you can change, because that's going to be the one that is most rewarding and is most likely to then go on. So, from a waste point of view, I'll often tell people to look in your rubbish bin. What's the one thing in there that you're like, oh, I feel really bad about that, or that's a really easy change, or whatever it is. It really doesn't matter what it is. Just choose the one that works for you. And I heard this really beautiful philosophy, for want of a better word, which is all about, you're going to be most effective at change if you find the sweet spot between change that needs to be made. So what is the change that needs to be made? What skill set have you got, and what brings you joy, right? And if you find that what's at the collision of that, then that's what you're going to be most effective at. So if I look at me, it's like, okay, change. I believe the change that needs to be made is we need to be more mindful of how and what we're consuming.
Yeah.
My skill set is I've got this background in FMCG and shopper behaviour. That's kind of my skill set, and what brings me joy is I love connecting with people and speaking. So that, that's where Mainstream Green came from, is that sweet spot. So it's the same, if you love gardening, or if you, love going out for takeaways, and you can start taking your own container, wherever, find the one that feels right to you. But I know some people still go, just tell me the one thing.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. So look, one thing I'm really hot on at the moment is, I've been hot on for a long time, is food waste. So that whole kind of cycle of food growing, soil health, food waste. So a lot of people don't understand that if you throw something organic like a banana skin away in the rubbish and it ends up in a landfill, it doesn't break down organically in the way that it would if it was out in nature in a compost heap. Breaks down in a way that creates methane, extremely powerful greenhouse gas. Because a landfill is not a natural environment, so it's actually really detrimental to throw organic waste in a landfill. We're also throwing away a lot of food that could be eaten, so it's globally estimated that a third of all food that is grown and manufactured goes to waste. And you think about, you think of a banana, so you get 3 bananas, arguably one of those bananas ends up getting wasted, potentially goes in the rubbish and creates methane. That banana, a lot has gone into that banana, right? Yeah. The water, the fertilizer, the transport, because it's come halfway around the world to get to us here, for example. There's all of that embedded resource as well that as part of the impact that then gets thrown away. So, and then the way we grow our food and the soil health and all that kind of stuff is all very linked. So, if people say, just please give me one thing, I'm like, just waste less food. Get better at using your leftovers. We have a leftover night in our house every week. It's normally pizza. It's all of the random stuff in the fridge. Yeah, it's my kids' favourite meal, so I don't know what that says about the rest of my cooking. But that's, if you really need somewhere to start, then just get better at valuing the food that we have and using it up.
Nice. And it's a last minute thought, isn't it? Like you see the fridge and like, oh gosh, and you just chuck all these things out that have been sitting there and you have it's just that process. Yeah.
Just
mindful.
Yeah, it's breaking
just
that
being
all
mindful.
Totally.
It's paying attention.
Yeah.
Like you pay attention to people, pay attention to the environment. Love it. Thank you, Nick. All right, we have some quick fire questions for you. All right, 3 things that made you smile today.
So, the weather, this autumnal weather, right? It's just amazing. I was talking about the Boom Garden in front of our house. So I heard a really cool conversation. We'd picked some marigolds because all the petals are edible and put some out on the side of the road. And we heard people kind of talking and interacting and taking those this morning. So that was really good. We have neighbours' cats that always arrive at our doorstep at the same time every day. So it's like you open the door at like 6:30 in the morning. It's like, hello boys. And that always makes me smile.
Favourite books?
I have been reading Sarah Wilson recently of I Quit Sugar fame, but her books about this one wild and precious life, and First We Make the Beast Beautiful. They've been real game changers for me. And then currently reading Nikki Pellegrino's Don't Sweat It, which is all about menopause.
Yes. I follow Nikki.
Yeah. So
it's making quite a splash, that book.
It really is.
Cool. Yeah.
Yep. So really enjoying those. Yep.
3 favourite smells.
I love the smell of coffee, but I don't drink coffee, which I find really funny. But love the smell of it. Tomatoes at the moment. Yeah, just because it's the last of the season, and I really really enjoying that. And it's going to sound really weird, but the smell of my kids' heads. Yeah, you on that? Okay, good.
I'm on that with you.
Okay, good.
When I've said it in a couple of other interviews, they're like, what? Like, it's nice. Except for my smelly 8-year-old, he's a little bit stinky. But,
I'm sure there's a tipping point.
Yeah. What makes you laugh?
Everything, like sometimes to the point where it's awkward. So I try to find humour in most things, and not everybody always sees that. So and I love the absurd. I'm a big fan of that, and just those quirks of human nature. I love what makes us human, and it makes us smile and laugh. Yep.
First ever job.
Rolling ice creams at the Manhattan Price Cutter in Hamilton East.
Outstanding.
Yeah, got amazing one forum.
I was going to say, I always think those girls must have one strong, the service people, whoever's there, but it's often, Yeah,
you do.
Go to pick-me-up songs.
So I love anything that is like from the 70s or 80s that has been remixed. Okay. So made a bit funky or a bit, got a good beat behind it. So something like Fleetwood Mac. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
3 things that you're grateful for today.
Grateful for being able to walk my kids to school. I get to walk my kids to school most days, which is really cool. I am grateful for, we bought this house off very good friends of ours, and they planted that amazing magnolia tree that you can see out the window, and it's a season tree.
Yeah.
You know, so you can tell what season it is just by looking at it. So I'm really grateful for that. And grateful for waking up before my children and seeing them sleeping. You know, and you can look in on them and it's like, oh.
Hobbies.
I have recently retaken up roller skating.
Outstanding.
I know.
I'm jealous.
So yeah, that's pretty fun. My daughter and I started doing it, and then some more of her friends got into it, and now there's a few of us mums that have got into it as well.
So
and
cool.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. And I don't know if you call it a hobby, but I've got a thing with fixing things, you know, like repairing things. That's become a bit of a thing on this journey for me, and just connecting with really interesting people. Yeah, like you. Have a good chat. Good kōrero. Yep.
Off the wall people like me. Now, we used to say, what does a lazy day look like for you? But I don't actually like the word lazy. And we were chatting a while ago with David Galbraith. He said, I don't have a lazy day, but I've got a recovery day. And I was like, and we've changed our word. So what does a recovery day look like for you?
Yeah, I think it's just focusing on those basic building blocks of life, right? So good sleep, not sleeping in, just making sure you're going to bed at a good time, getting up at a good time, eating good food, moving. You know, my ideal is getting exercise done and dusted in the morning, and then sort of setting out for the day, getting outside. And then I'm an active relaxer, so I find things like even like a jigsaw puzzle. Yes. It's really good because it's downtime, but you're still yeah.
I love that. Qualities you love about yourself.
So I am independent, fiercely loyal, and I get shit done.
Nice. I love that. Beautiful. Sustainability life hacks.
Buy less and use it more.
Nice.
Would be how I'd summarise that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you very much, Nick. This has been amazing, and I know that there'll be so many life hacks and just starting points for people to actually, and aha moments, hopefully, of going, I actually could do that. That's not out of the realm of possibility for me to try. And that's what we talk about so often. It's just generating curiosity and encouraging actions to try. You're not going to get it right the first time. But try. There's nothing to lose from buying a glass bottle first off and just filling it up out of the tap.
There you go. It feels
and not
good.
going to the fridge and going at the shop and going to get a pump bottle. So thank you so much for your time. Please let us know what you've loved about this video, because I've just loved so much about this interview. So there's lots of tidbits for me. So let us know what you have loved about it, and we'll see you next time. Ka kite.